Well, hello, model car fans. Welcome to the Muscle Car Modeler. My name is Rob, and this week I'm going to feature a build here of a 427 Shelby Cobra. They're pretty rare cars. They're also the most commonly duplicated car because there are a lot more clones and replicas and tributes than there are original cars. Now, original cars, um, the numbers are kind of mudded up. It really depends because there's a lot of one-off and unusual ones, and Shelby, took some of them and changed them into something else. So the more I research the history of the cars, the more interesting it gets and the more specific it gets. But with Shelby making anywhere between the numbers I've seen is 998 Cobras to 1,003, I think is the highest number I've seen for Cobras, and that's all Cobras. 260, 289, and 427 Cobras. Now, the numbers I had seen for the 427 Cobras is 348 is the one I see the most. And of those, 260 are street Cobras like this one. And they were supposed to make 100 competition Cobras. Of what I was reading on those, they actually made 51. But only 23 were actually sold, so they took the last 29 of them and turned them into semi-competition Cobras. And there are a number of differences between a competition Cobra and a street Cobra, and there's just running changes. That's where I have trouble keeping track. Now, I want to get the Shelby registry books. I've been interested in buying those and getting the specifics because they have one for Mustangs, and I understand a second book for strictly the Cobras, and it gives you each one of these Shelby Cobras, the originals, and it tells you its original configuration and what it had been through and ownership history. So I understand it's pretty thorough and pretty complete, which is one of the reasons why it costs so much money for those books, even used ones. But and I haven't seriously looked into that one as much because of the book. But this is Revell Monograms, officially Monograms, Street Cobra 427. But one of the things that these cars, if you know their history, just about all of the Street Cobras do not actually have a 427 engine in them, or at least originally. There's some controversy there as well. Now, it is generally accepted that all of the competition cars got the side oiler 427s, that all of them did. But when it came to the street ones, they had a lot of supply issues a little bit and costly. And I understand the 427 side oiler race motor that they were using literally cost twice as much as a 428 Cobra street engine. So they started to put, I hear 428 Cobra Jet, but that motor really didn't come out until 68, which is right when the Shelby Cobras actually were no longer being produced, because the 427 cars actually started in 65, and most of them are 66s and 67s. The full race ones, the competition models, those are the first ones, and generally I believe they're all 65s, and they're CXX 3000 through 3199, I think is what the serial numbers are supposed to be, but they kind of jump around. Outside of that is the next batch, because the competition models and the semi-competition models were kind of along the same lines, and some of them got pulled and turned into others. The street models were actually all CSX 3200 and later. The serial numbers go 3200 to 3360, I believe it is, for the 260 models that were made of the street models. Now, some of them got scoops because the scoops were kind of optional. Some of them got side pipes, but they were all pretty much street models as far as full bumpers. But many of them, when they were restored or changed over the years, got turned into competition models. So that's where the individual history gets into them. All of the original racing ones and competition ones got the Hellebrand models. You can see I got these wheels on here, which are the Sunburst wheels. Those came later, and they were only on the street models, but mainly because there was a supply issue and shortage of demand for the Hellebrand ones. They just couldn't get them, so these wheels were designed and used on the street models. So they could have these, they could have the other ones. Again, it gets very specific into it. But Shelby, when it came to putting the 428s in these cars, he got a lot of crap for it because he decided that, when people approached him about it or found out that they had 428s in them and not 427s, there were a number of them that got upset. And some of those motors were pulled and 427s put into them. He told those customers that 427 Cobra was the model number, didn't necessarily represent the engine that was in it. It could be 428s, but that was Carroll Shelby being Carroll. And many of them were just happy with it, 400 horsepower versus, I think the full competition 427 side oilers were actually producing like almost 600 horsepower. I've seen some that said they produced 606 horsepower, where the 428s didn't produce that much power, but it was a full-on street production motor, and they just tore it up even in this light, 2,000-pound car. I think it was even less than that, 1,400, 1,600 pounds. But they were street terrors, and the full prepped 427s. Ken Miles actually, did the famous 0 to 100 and back to 0 in 13 seconds. That was an unbelievable feat to take a car and accelerate that fast and then stop that fast. And he did it, and there's lots of stories about that. But a lot of the 428s were not quite that fast, but they were still potent street cars. There's stories of them, swapping the rear end, coming around, just getting loose and getting squirrely. It's kind of crazy stuff, but it's just fun for me to research and read that and finding out, what these things have gone through, and the values of these cars, original cars, have really gone through the roof. All of them breaking $1 million at this point. Even some of the rougher ones, but some of the unrestored and very well kept but not restored ones, some of those bring even crazier money because of that. But that's the value side of it, but it's the history of each one, and that's what you're paying for. Now, when it comes to this specific build, this is a newer one for me. I actually shared my first one earlier on in my channel. I shared a couple of my early Cobras that I built a long time ago. This one I can still say I built a long time ago, as this one was done in about 2010. And it's really my second one because I did some mods to the kit, the Revell Monogram kit. It's a 427 Street Cobra. Comes with the hood, the bumpers and stuff. But there's some accuracy issues, but it's hard to document those again because each car is a little bit different and there are some running changes. To me, the biggest one that I really want to change are these square taillights. Most of the Cobras got those square taillights, but sometimes toward the end of production, they switch to two round taillights on each one. And they're actually a lot like these front ones, but even the front ones changed because I understand Lucas made these lights, the square ones and the front ones, and then Lucas made the later ones also. And the big difference is the lens got bigger and more square, not as pointy, and the chrome bezel got smaller, and the taillights were the same way. They were actually the same design, but they had red, and there was 2 on each side. And that's one thing I want to replicate, but I haven't really found a suitable example of that. Now, another thing I like about this particular version is it has a soft top. This soft top actually is removable. It actually has the street dash with the glove box in it. And Monogram actually had both dashes, the race dash and the street dash. And the manual tranny with the backwards mounted shifter because, it was too far back. So they reverse mounted the shifter so that you can reach it and shift it. That's why the shifter is actually that way. And they did a pretty good job. I added this exhaust system, so I fabbed that up, headers and all, just to give it the more street exhaust instead of the side pipes. But many of them had the side pipes added. Some of them, they went under the rocker and not through the rocker. But a lot of the factory ones actually went right through the rocker there, the quarter, with a hole. But that's how Revell actually did it as well. So this is an older build. Let me fan out just a little bit. Here's my oldest build. This is my original one from the late 80s, early 90s. And it's molded in red. As you can see, I actually didn't paint this one. It's the same. And then the top's glued on, so you can't take this top off. And it has the side pipes and those wire wheels, which none of the 427 cars had wire wheels. And it's funny because it's got the TRX front tires and the Goodyear rear tires, but that's what was in the kit at the time. And they kind of changed the tires around, but speaking of the wheels and tires, I did change these ones out. Now, these ones are resin. The wheels are resin. I used the same cap, and then I used tires from a later kit and put the blue lines in them. And of course, filled in. You can kind of see where the filling is, but filled in where the pipes went. And these are resin. They're from Reliable Resins, and it's like one of the ones that I last purchased from them. And I don't want to get into too much drama, but they were a pain to get and a lot of drama, but I did eventually get them. And if you know about Reliable Resins or read about them, I had the same kind of thing. So I will say, if you're looking for these wheels, though, move this out just a little bit more. I did find these a while ago, but 3D scale parts. They actually make the wheels also, and they're 3D printed. They're very nice, and come with the tires, and it even comes with knockoffs in here. So if you're looking for those wheels, I would definitely check them out. Bought these and got them fairly quickly. I've had these a couple of years now, but because I don't leave these things alone. Here's another one I started in 2016. So I got a couple of bodies in here because I just I love Cobras, and I got too many going on. So got another one that I kind of started, smoothed the body out, took the radius off of, took the gas cap off of, and moved it because the street cars had a smaller gas cap and a smaller tank. And I was just doing different things, but the taillight is what I wanted to change on this. And then I decided to remove the scoop down here for the oil cooler and add this in there, as I'd seen some with this, but I think all of them had that cooler scoop. But I was playing with that body, and then I got another body here that same kind of thing, started to fill in the holes just in case. But that's as far as that one got. But playing around with them, which is why, many of them, but that's how I built this one. And I haven't showed you the motor yet, but there's, the motor pretty much right the way it was from the kit. Didn't do anything or change anything to that one, but enjoyed building it. And then one of the things I understand, they pretty much all would have one 4-barrel on them. All the race ones had one 4-barrel, and it was a Holly. Some of the 428s had auto lights in them, and they had fuel starvation problems. Later in the production run, with all the complaints and everything, the last batch of the regular ones got 427s again in them. I don't know if they were all side oilers. I understand they may have not have been. And some of those cars got the dual 4-barrels instead of a single 4-barrel, which is kind of what this one is representing. But I don't know the full history and the specifics on that. So it's just what I've been reading. So I left that alone. I like that intake and setup on it because the competition one has the single 4-barrel, and just how I did it like that. But I did both of these. Like, this one's a really old build from late 80s, early 90s, one of my few that are surviving. And I clear coated the entire thing later on with the spray clear, which is why the windshield looks the way it does, and the plastic has the shine on it as well, even though it's raw plastic. I didn't actually paint that one, but this one I did paint, and love it. And it's just a beautiful car. I even filled in the gas cap, by the way, just removed that. Some of them, the gas tank was actually in the trunk. Some of them had a cap up here. Some of them had the cap here. So lots of running changes and discrepancies. But, I figured I would show you guys this one, as it's, a beautiful one. It's kind of an older one, and I haven't shown this one yet on the channel. But, I've got the pair of them. Well, actually, I got more than that. I've got probably 5 of these built. But, just haven't shown them all. Showed you my 2 old ones, and then now this one from 2010, and I got, I believe, 1 or 2 more. And then a number of these unbuilt. Oh my God. Probably 10. You name it. If it was issued in a certain box art, I pretty much have them all. But that's enough rambling on this one. So thank you for tuning in, subscribing, and all your comments. I do really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed this one. You guys, you have a wonderful Saturday, and I will see you next weekend.